Hi, I'm Howard Tiersky, the author of Winning Digital Customers, The Antidote to Irrelevance. And this is a supplemental video for people who have the book. So I'm assuming you have the book. By the way, if you don't have the book, what are you doing, man? You got to get the book. You got to go to winningdigitalcustomers.com and you can learn all about the book and find out how to get a copy of the book. Do that now because the material I'm going to talk about here is really a supplement to the discussion in the book that talks about accepted pain and blame pain. As a quick recap, you may recall that blame pain is when we have an experience when we're interacting with a brand, perhaps it's on a website or in a store, and something happens that we feel is not how it should be. And we feel we blame. We may blame the brand. For example, we're waiting in line for 20 minutes to check out at the grocery store, and we think, man, this is lame. Why should I have to suffer this way? The store should do a better job of making sure, they have enough cashiers. Or you might even blame yourself, and you might say, oh man, why did I come now? I'm so stupid. I should know better than to come to the store this time of day. The customer has that negative feeling. And of course, that's bad. That's bad for the brand. That's bad for the relationship with the brand. Anytime a customer has negative emotional experiences when they're interacting with you, that's creating a negative customer journey and is moving the customer relationship in the opposite of the direction you want to move it. So if you possibly can, you want to do something to relieve blame pain. Now, let's talk about the other kind of pain real quick as a recap, which is accepted pain. Accepted pain is work, effort, friction that the customer doesn't feel a sense of blame about. And the example we use in the book is if I go to check out at the grocery store and there's one person ahead of me and I have to wait 5 minutes. It is, I'm not going to say pain, but it is a certain amount of inconvenience. After all, I'm standing there waiting. But because it's only a few minutes, I don't feel a negative emotion. I accept that this is part of shopping. It's going to take a little while to check out and it's within the parameters of my expectation. And so I have no negative emotions. I might not have positive emotions about it, but I have no emotions. And so at least that's not a negative experience. So what we said in the book is if you can improve your customer experience, such as to remove blame pain, what you're essentially doing is you're essentially removing negative emotional experiences, neutralizing them. So for example, if you make changes so that your customer goes from having to wait 20 minutes to only having to wait 5 minutes, you've essentially removed that negative emotional experience. And that's a good thing. That's an improvement to the customer journey. When you remove accepted pain, you're actually creating delight. And the example we use in the book is if you go to an Amazon Go store, and you've probably heard about those stores that use computer vision to watch shoppers and see what products they take, so that all you do at the end, you give them your credit card, you swipe your credit card, or you use an app that knows your credit card before you go into the store, and the computer knows exactly which products you've picked up. And so when you walk out of the store, without going through any kind of cash register or checkout process, you're simply charged for the items you took with you. That's it. Customers love this. It's fun. It creates a feeling of delight because even their accepted pain has been removed. And the other example that I use all the time is when I started using Uber for the first time, I never really felt that when I arrived somewhere in a taxi cab and had to take 30 seconds and pay the driver, that it was painful. I just accepted that that's part of, using a car service or a taxi cab. Even though you've arrived at your destination, you're sitting there with the car stopped at the curb, you still got to wait before you get out because you got to pay the driver. And all of a sudden Uber comes along and the car pulls up and as soon as it stops, I'm out. I'm done. I don't have to think about it. And all of a sudden I feel delight and now I never want to go back, right? So if you can create those feelings of delight for your customer, you've done a very positive thing, not just eliminated a negative, but done a positive thing. So that's a recap of what the book says. Now, let's talk about what we said this video is going to be about, which is shifting pain perceptions. I want to go back to something I said earlier. The difference between when we experience some level of inconvenience or pain or friction or whatever word you want to use during a customer journey, what determines whether the customer considers that blame pain or whether they consider it accepted pain? And by the way, of course, the customer is not thinking about these terms. These are terms of analysis that we use as customer experience professionals. But what determines whether the customer is going to respond in a way where they feel negative blame emotion or whether they just feel, neutral because they accept it? The answer, and I used this word before, is expectations, right? If I go to a fancy restaurant, I expect a different level of service and a different level of quality of food than when I go to, Chili's or TGI Fridays, right? I'm not expecting my waiter to be super knowledgeable about every single thing on the menu and make strong recommendations. Or I'm not expecting gourmet cuisine when I go to, an Olive Garden restaurant, of course. So if I were to go to a fancy French restaurant and experience food and service qualities of the level of an Olive Garden, I might experience blame pain. I might say, God, a fancy, expensive restaurant like this shouldn't be this way. I'm paying too much money to have this experience. Whereas if I went to a McDonald's and had the service equivalent or food quality experience of even an Olive Garden, I might say, this is amazing and be delighted. So the way in which you characterize whether an experience that isn't optimal creates blame or acceptance is all to do with your expectations. So why am I talking about this? Well, because sometimes we learn that we have pain or points of pain or friction in customer journeys that we don't know if we can remove, or at least we can't remove them immediately. And so we're creating negative feelings. Is there anything that we can do about that? And the answer is, as we say in the title of this video, well, the best thing to do is to remove the pain. There's no question. But if that's not immediately practical, the other thing you can do is to try to shift the perception, shift the expectation. So how can you do that? Well, a simple example. During COVID, a lot of stores or, doctor's offices, they're operating more slowly. They're not able to respond to you at the speed that they normally would. Now, if they communicate to you, hey, due to COVID, we have fewer staff, we're doing our best, we really care about you, we want to serve you at the highest level, but because of these factors, we're not able to deliver at the way that we normally would. You can buy a little bit of expectation shift. Now, I'm not saying people aren't going to get frustrated if they have to wait 3 hours for a doctor's appointment, but people are going to be a little bit more patient, a little more tolerant. And the threshold, when they go from accepted pain to blame pain, gets moved a little bit. So that's one way, is when things change and you're now creating pain where you weren't before, just explain to the customer and you can shift expectations. Well, that's one tactic. Here's another tactic, though, which is if you are creating an experience, which perhaps it's a budget experience, and therefore you're not doing all the things that your more expensive competitors are doing, build that into the expectations of the brand. A great example of this is Southwest Airlines. Southwest Airlines has the highest customer satisfaction rating in most years of any airline in the United States, and yet they're one of the cheapest airlines to fly. Now, how is that possible? It's because customers know and understand that they're not going to get fed on a Southwest Airlines flight the way that they would on a United Airlines flight. They know and understand that they may not be able to reserve their seat the way that they would on another flight. They buy in when they pay that lower fare, and the expectations are carefully set so that they accept these things. If I went on a United Airlines flight for 3 hours and they didn't feed me, I might feel blame. I might feel like that's terrible that they haven't offered me anything to eat for 3 hours. When I go on Southwest, it's totally to be expected. One thing that many airlines did a number of years ago is they started selling food. They started eliminating the amount of food they were giving you for free, and carefully communicating and explaining to customers the shift they were making. Fees, airline rates, of course, have been going down and down over the last decade or so. So airline tickets cost less. The airlines explained that they could offer you higher quality meals if you were willing to pay something for them. Bottom line is they managed to shift the expectations of flyers. So now when I get on an airline and I have to pay $11 or $15 for a sandwich and whatnot, if it's a good sandwich, I'm satisfied. I'm not feeling like I'm blaming the airline because they're not providing me that food for free, at least not in coach. So let me give you a couple other quick examples of this idea of shifting perceptions. By the way, if you can take something that normally is perceived as would be a blame pain and you can shift it to accepted pain, then you can not have to spend the time and money to fix that in the customer journey and avoid negative emotions. And then if somehow you do manage to fix it, now because you're removing accepted pain instead of blame pain, you get the double benefit of now you create delight. And it reminds me of something that happened, I guess it's more than a year ago now, before COVID. My wife comes back from BJ's. You probably have near you a Sam's Club or a BJ's or a Costco. So you know the model. You pay an annual subscription and you go and you get inexpensive groceries and other household items. But it's a very no frills kind of shopping experience. Well, one of the things that's part of the no frills experience that you're led to, your expectations are set, is that they don't give you any bags. You buy your stuff, there's no shopping bags, they don't bag anything for you. The only thing they are for you, if you want something to pack up all your groceries and other stuff into, is they give you their old boxes. In other words, whenever they get, shipments of whatever they get, all their product, boxes of coffee or whatever, bags of frozen meals in cardboard boxes, they cut them in half to open them up, they put the stuff on the shelves, and then they pile all of these half cut open used boxes into kind of a big bin. And when you check out, if you want to go sort through the bin of used cardboard boxes and find some that you want to use, well, you can grab them and they're free for the taking. they're basically garbage, okay? They're giving you garbage to put your groceries in. But that's the mystique of the warehouse club experience, right? You know you're going to this place, it's got no carpeting, it's very bare, there's very little people to help you, there's very kind of industrial lighting, you're probably going to wait in a long line, and you're going to have to sort through garbage if you want to find boxes. And half the time those boxes are ripped, sometimes they're wet, or they've got like still crud on them from whatever was in them before. I mean, it's kind of gross if you ask me. So one day, my wife comes home from BJ's, and I said, oh, how was the trip? She says, it was fantastic. I'm like, oh, your trip to BJ's was fantastic? What was so fantastic? Oh, they had the best boxes. I got like 8 boxes. All the boxes were dry. They weren't ripped. They weren't broken. You know, they were nice big ones. They weren't sometimes all they have is little weird shaped boxes. They had a fantastic selection of cardboard boxes to pack everything up into. And I'm thinking, wow, this is genius expectation shifting, right? If you went to a regular grocery store and they made you to sort through the garbage in order to find something to put your groceries into, I think there'd be a lot of blame. But Costco and BJ's and those types of stores have done such a masterful job of shifting your expectations that when you have to sort through their garbage, if you find not so garbagey stuff in the garbage, boxes that are not stained and smelly, you're delighted. Because you've already accepted that you're going to sort through the garbage and you're probably going to have to deal with some junky boxes that are half ripped and half stained. And when you find some clean ones, we create delight. And that was a delight that my wife was experiencing when she came home that day from BJ. So that's a good example of how you can actually create delight. And again, imagine you were on Southwest and one day they served you a hot meal for free. Oh my God, right? The same hot meal that United Airlines might serve that people would say was gross and unappreciated, Southwest Airline flyers would think was amazing. They gave us a meal. It's fantastic. So this is the secret, right? It's always best if you can, if the budget permits, if it's economically viable, to simply remove pain. But if you can't do it or you can't do it yet, see if you could shift expectations. So if this person has to sort of deal with that inconvenience or suboptimal experience, you set the expectation so it's not a surprise, it's consistent with what they're expecting. And then, if you have the opportunity to actually remove it later, once you shift that down from blame pain to accepted pain, now you create some delight. So that's really what I want to cover in this video, a little extension to our discussion of blame pain and accepted pain, to talk about the strategy of shifting customer expectations to take blame pain and turn it into an accepted pain, and maybe eventually remove that accepted pain and turn that into delight. So thanks for listening. Thanks so much for reading the book. I hope you enjoy the rest of this chapter and enjoy the rest of the book, and I'll see you soon.